Hey, what's up, you guys? Massive fight night taking place tomorrow night in Texas. I mean, guys, I'm so excited for this fight card. Honestly, I've seen some MMA creators, in the space say this, and they're absolutely right. Like, you stick a title fight on top of this card, and this is absolutely pay-per-view worthy. We're gonna go ahead and break this card down, you guys. Please like the video, comment down below, and subscribe. Also, make sure to stay till the end of the video so you guys can get to see my official plays for this Texas card. So, I mean, right off the bat, I feel like most people's attention is definitely going to be on that main card, as that's where we really have the stars. And, to be fair, like, the prelims isn't the most, like, action-packed. Like, we don't have that many big names. I feel like out of all the prelims, I could say probably Miesha Tate is probably the biggest name, on that card. But, just to run through the card real quick, I mean, we have Veronica Hardy versus James Lynn Horth. I think Horth should be able to pull that off. She's been more active, undefeated. She is a slight favorite, in terms of, the booking odds. Then, we also have Wellington Turman versus Jared Gooden. Turman coming in at a -200, which I do like him at that value. I see a lot of people that are writing Jared, as an underdog, but I do think Turman will get it done just solely on the fact, I mean, the guy's been training with Alex Bajeda and Glover for a while. I know he is chinny, but that being said, all that training that he's doing with the champ, I feel like that should pay off. Rodolfo should get past Eeyore pretty fairly. We also do have Jakar Close versus Joe Selecki. I think Joe is a live dog in that fight, as well as we have Zachary Reese and Cody Brundage, which this should be a fairly easy win for Zachary Reese. 6-0 undefeated. I mean, he's looked good in his last couple fights. I really think this is Cody's last fight in the UFC. Then, ending, the card off, we have Miesha Tate and Julie, Alvia. This obviously should be, Miesha Tate's last fight. I think this is, the fight for her to go out the door. So overall, not the best prelim card, but I mean, it's just literally appetizers, for, the main course. And then we get to the first of 4 amazing fights. We have Kelvin Gastelum versus Sean Brady. And I mean, dude, I'm so excited for this fight. Kelvin Gastelum finally coming back down to 170. I mean, I think he spent like 8 years in middleweight. And dude, the craziest part of this whole thing, looking at it, is Kelvin is only 32 years old. The guy reminds me a lot of Max Holloway, where both Max and Kelvin have been in the game for such a long time and has fought the who's in their divisions, that it's like crazy to think, like, dude, these guys are only in barely entering their 30s. So it's like, damn, dude, we have so many more years with these fighters, and the amount of experience they've already gotten at the highest level, it's just insane. I mean, just to name a couple people that Kelvin's been attached to, you got Robert Whitaker, Israel Adesanya, Jared Cannonier, Michael Bisping. It felt like ages ago when Michael Bisping, last fought. So it should let you know, I mean, Kelvin has fought the who's at 185. Now coming back down to, 170, it leads so many interesting questions for him. Originally, we were supposed to get Shavkat to welcome Kelvin back down to 170. And Shavkat is in the top 5. So to me, it was like a perfect opportunity for Kelvin with him being 11 at middleweight. But once that fight got canceled, I was kind of worried that they were going to do him dirty and give him someone outside the top 15. But he actually, he didn't get that bad of a fight, because now he's getting number 9 in Sean Brady. And I'll tell you right now, this is a very, very winnable fight for Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, taking a look at the odds, they have Kelvin sitting at 105 with Sean Brady being -130. And to many people, I could already see how they think this fight is going to play out with, Sean taking Kelvin down. I mean, Kelvin has a 68% takedown defense, which, isn't the best, but it is, gonna hold up against someone like Sean Brady. Like I said, for the most part, the MMA community think it's gonna be takedown after takedown, control. But to be honest with you, I don't think Sean Brady is that type of guy. A long time ago, I did say that, I believe that in some fighters, you could just tell what their weaknesses are with them not even showing your weaknesses. I don't know if it's an instinct or whatnot, but you could tell sometimes. And I did have a feeling that Sean Brady did not have a chin. And you guys need to remember, Sean Brady got cracked and TKO'd by Bilal Muhammad. Remember the decision Muhammad, the guy that does not finish anyone. He cracked Sean Brady on the feet, and he did it with such floppy, technical style. I mean, it's crazy to think, but like, what is Kelvin gonna do if he can land those same shots? Kelvin is the guy that's put out, big middleweights, hurt big middleweights. Imagine what he's gonna be able to do to Sean Brady, who is not the biggest welterweight. And man, he looks in good shape, man. He looks a little bit leaner. His muscles are a little bit toned. You could tell that he really took this cut down very serious, and they're just at the same height. I definitely feel like Kelvin might want to take his time, probably breeze past the first round, but you're gonna see Sean try to shoot in, and I feel like Kelvin's gonna be able to stuff those takedowns early on. He'll probably tire out Sean Brady and then look for those big shots, those big right hands, left hands, and I think he is going to knock out Sean Brady. So yeah, for my official pick, give me Kelvin Gastelum. I think he 100% gets this done by knockout. In terms of gambling, I mean, obviously you have to hammer that money line at 105. I think you're getting Kelvin at great value. I mean, imagine if, this were an even bigger underdog. I mean, even better. But the fact that you're getting him at minus 105, I think that's amazing. And man, the thing is, I'm not the type of dude to give you guys misinformation or give you guys like false plays, just things that I think might happen. I'm going to give you guys my full on takes, just like I want to win money, I want you guys to win money as well. And with apps like ParlayPlay, PrizePicks, and Underdog, none of them actually have Kelvin Gastelum at significant strikes or at fight time. It's all Sean Brady, and the interesting thing is they have his significant strikes set at 49.5. I think you absolutely take the lower in this situation. I do like this play. I don't think Sean Brady is that much of a technical striker where he will rack up more than 50 significant strikes. I feel like the only time he's going to hit this number is against guys such as Bilal Muhammad or Michael Chiesa, where those guys are kind of there to be hit. Kelvin, he's there to be hit, but the guy is going to crack back, and he carries some serious power in his hands. So I would definitely take the lower on that. If you do hop on Underdog Fantasy, they do have Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum on the rival section, with Sean Brady having a 3.5 adjustment in the significant strikes. I think you take Kelvin in that, have him go higher. That is an absolute lock. And for those guys that are on BetUS, I think there is a ton of value at Kelvin Gastelum by knockout at plus 275, and I would definitely sprinkle something on Gastelum by round 2 knockout at plus 900, Gastelum by knockout round 3 at plus 1400. But then we actually get into the next fight, and crazy enough, this is another fighter making a, I guess debut in a sense in a new weight class. You have Rob Font versus the debut of Davison Figueiredo at bantamweight. What a fight, man. Right off the bat, I know a lot of people are going to wonder, well, will Figgy be undersized at 135? And yes and no. I think yes in the sense of height, because I feel like most bantamweights their height is either from 5'6", 5'7". I feel like that is typically the range that you see, maybe 5'8", but Figgy's actually coming in here at 5'4", so that's pretty short, I feel, for a bantamweight. But I mean, definitely not in the weight, because man, Figgy was 165 cutting down to 125. I mean, that is an absolute unit. I mean, that guy was like the biggest fighter at flyweight. With him now coming up to 35, he's still not undersized, because most bantamweights, they get around like 150, I guess maybe like early 160s. They don't get up to 165 like Figgy is now. And man, looking at the weigh-ins, I mean, he looked really slim, he looked good, not like too sucked in. But the thing is with this is that he is going to like blow up. I'm really excited to see how he's gonna look on Saturday, but I could almost expect him to be like probably at the 150s. Nonetheless, though, the guy should be able to hold his own at bantamweight. Another thing to mention is, man, this is Figgy's first fight in 4 fights that he's fighting a guy not named Brandon Moreno. I mean, his last 4 was all against Brandon Moreno down at flyweight. They had their legendary quadrilogy that will live on for years, but this is a fresher face, so it's going to be interesting. How does he do seeing, you know, someone that's not Brandon Moreno? And I mean, for Rob Font, I mean, Rob Font is kind of like all over the place. I mean, he had his momentum coming up, you know, to the top 5, getting wins over, you know, Marlon Moraes, Cody Garbrandt. You know, he looked very good in those fights, and then all of a sudden, you know, ran into Cheeto, ran into Aldo. His momentum started to go down. Then, you know, it shot immediately right back up after he got that first round knockout over Adrian Yanez in a fight that a lot of people were writing him off. And, you know, the thing that sticks out with him the most is his beautiful boxing. I mean, this guy comes from the New England cartel, you know, from Boston, with guys that are known for boxing, such as Calvin Kattar. And for him, he has the most beautiful jab in the division. But it just seems to me that while, you know, Rob Font is really good, I don't think he's cream of the crop at bantamweight. You know, he had a fight with Song Yadong that went ahead and got canceled, and even in that fight, I didn't think he was gonna win it. You know, I was actually riding with him for the Adrian Yanez fight. You know, I feel like Rob Font has a lot of strengths against specific type of fighters, but it just seems to me that when you give Rob Font the threat of a wrestling takedown and heavy hands, it seems that he can tend to fall back. For me, I think it's safe to say that this fight is not going to go to a decision, and for the pick, I have to slightly lean towards Deiveson Figueiredo, just because while I do think Rob Font has a beautiful advantage with the boxing and the jab and, you know, the arm length, I just feel that Deiveson has more wins, you know, more ways to win this fight, whether it be, you know, cracking Font with the right hand or deciding to wrestle to get him down and submit him. I mean, the guy has submissions under his record. His first title defense against Alex Perez, you know, had a nasty guillotine on him. He's had nasty guillotine attempts on Brandon Moreno. So that's actually very much a method for him. And I just feel like Deiveson has something to prove, if that makes sense. I feel like if he loses this fight, I mean, where does he go from this? I mean, he had the whole thing at 125, the rivalry with Brandon Moreno. And where does he go if he loses the fight? I feel like this is like a must not lose, if that makes sense, for Figueiredo. And I just have a feeling that if they meet in the middle, while I do feel that Rob Font can knock out, you know, Deiveson as well, I feel like punch for punch, power for power, I have to give that to Deiveson Figueiredo to win those exchanges. So for my official pick, give me Deiveson Figueiredo, and I like him at plus 105. I wouldn't say this is a fight where you have to absolutely hammer the money line, but I do feel like he is gonna have a lot of success, and I think that that's the play. Now, of course, I did tell you guys that I got you guys with the plays. In terms of fight time, I think it's very unpredictable because this fight could either end in early on in the first round, or it can go up to the third and be finished there. I don't think it's going to go to a decision, like I said, so I wouldn't bet on the fight time. However, I would say that one prop to look at is, in fact, Rob Font's significant strikes. A lot of bookies have him at 61.5. I would say to 100% take the lower because I love that prop. Now, the reason why I do say this is because he will, in fact, hit this number if he's able to pepper his jab out on opponents that are going to decide to stand in front of him and strike. He won't hit this if someone decides to go out there and wrestle him, have him against the fence, or even if he, you know, the finish is a possibility as well. So I love this play. I think that Deiveson will choose to wrestle him, and then, you know, if the fight finishes, the fight finishes. I don't think it goes over 61. Now, like I said, for my people on Underdog who are going to ask, oh, well, what about the significant strike, you know, rival? Deiveson has an 11.5 adjustment. I don't think you take that because, like I said, there is still a chance that Rob Font is going to want to, you know, get ahead with the jabs, and he could, you know, land, you know, more than 20, you know, more than 11.5. Deiveson, you know, he does have output, but it's not the most output. Like, he's not a volume striker. He's very much a, you know, throwing a nuke and letting it explode. So I wouldn't say take that. Now, you know, of course, for my people on BetUS, Deiveson Figueiredo by knockout at plus 500. And we also have Deiveson round 1 knockout at plus 1200, round 2 knockout at plus 1400. I definitely say sprinkle some on both. Bitch. And then now we go into the co-main event. My guy Bobby Green taking on Jalen Turner. Jalen coming in on short notice, 9 days notice. Obviously, of course, we were supposed to see Dan Hooker in this spot against Bobby Green, but unfortunately had to pull out due to injury. And now we're getting Jalen step in here, and the fight is no longer 5 rounds. It's a 3-round fight. Understandable. Now, of course, my guy is Bobby Green, man. I absolutely love Bobby Green. I've been riding with him ever since he fought Lando Venata, the second time. Ever since then, man, I've been rooting for the guy, and he's never failed to disappoint me. Yes, he's had fights that he's dropped, such as Islam Makhachev, such as Rafael Fiziev, even Drew Dober. Fight after fight after fight, he's shown that he is up there with the best fighters in the world. And man, he has so much momentum going for him right now in 2023. I feel like this is his best year by far. I mean, finishing Tony Ferguson, coming out there and finishing Grant Dawson, number 10 in the world, undefeated in the UFC in the first 30 seconds of the fight. And now with this co-main event spot, he's going to be fighting Jalen Turner, number 13 versus number 12 in the rankings, which absolutely makes no sense to me. I think Bobby Green should be a top 10 fighter. It makes no sense for him to knock out the top number 10 in the world in 30 seconds and then get a number 13 on his name. It's absolutely disrespect, but he's gonna prove it this weekend. And yes, I'm 100% biased with this fight, but I will give you guys my honest take. And my honest take in this fight is that I feel like in some spots a lot of people kind of underestimate Bobby Green, and I definitely feel like the main thing is the age and the way his career has played out in the past. But I feel like people don't realize nowadays that Bobby is an entirely different fighter. I would put him, Justin Gaethje, and Dustin Poirier in the same section as some of the best boxers in the lightweight division. Bobby definitely stands out amongst those because his style is very Floyd Mayweather-esque, where he shoulder rolls, keeps his hands low, pops the jab, pops the straight, moves out the way, very elusive with his footwork. It's just something very beautiful to watch. The problem with this matchup in particular, though, has to be the height advantage. Jalen Turner is a 6'4" lightweight. He's a big lightweight, man. And I think for this fight in particular, having your hands low against a guy like Jalen Turner, who is so fast to get his knees up, to get his kicks off. I mean, the lightning quick kick that he threw at Dan Hooker that didn't knock him out, that everyone was so shocked by. Think about how fast he threw down. Now think about Bobby having his hands low. I mean, that could have massive ramifications, especially with Bobby not having the best chin in the world. I mean, he has a good chin, but it can be cracked. We've seen this before. And with Jalen having the reach advantage, I feel like you're almost most certainly gonna see Jalen push forward during this fight, have Bobby backing up. Bobby's gonna have to really use his kicks, try to get in, try to throw some straights, and definitely work on the body. The body is probably going to be Bobby Green's key to success. We saw Dan Hooker this past summer break down Jalen Turner with the body shots, and he looked so fatigued at the end of the fight. He was almost finished by Dan Hooker, and he kind of looked like spiritless, if that makes sense. And that was Jalen Turner on a full camp. And now with him fighting Bobby Green on 9 days notice, cutting all that weight down to get to 156. I mean, the guy nearly missed weight today at the weigh-ins. Adding the fact also that on the fight day media, he just seems so uninterested. He was saying that he was kind of forced by the UFC to take this fight,
and they said, nah, F that, we gonna put this together.
He didn't really want to, and he wanted to sit on the sidelines for his mental health reasons. I feel like all these red flags are massive indicators that Jalen Turner is going to lose this fight. Bobby Green is a guy that is known for his output. He does pack some power in his punch, and in a dogfight, I have to back Bobby Green to get the job done, as we've seen Jalen Turner kind of wilt under pressure before. Not just in this fight, he also wilted a couple years back against Vicente Luque. We also forget that Bobby can wrestle. His first discipline was wrestling, so that is something he can throw in his back pocket. So for my official pick, I do have to go with Bobby Green. I think he does get this fight done. Now, does he finish Jalen Turner is the question. I don't know. My gut tells me yes, but at the same time, knowing, you know, how methodical Jalen Turner can sometimes be, you know, kind of taking his time, as well as Bobby Green looking to pick his shots, I feel like we can get some time out of the clock, and I kind of feel like this fight could, you know, potentially go to a decision. Then again, though, I can also see these guys, you know, having kind of a dogfight, you know, having it getting carried to the later third round, and Bobby Green going ahead and picking, you know, off, you know, a knockout or even a submission over Jalen Turner. Now, what I do see is that most bookies have, you know, Jalen Turner's props out instead of Bobby Green's, and I do see in the significant strikes over at PrizePicks, you have him over at 53.5, while at Underdog you're getting him for 58. I think maybe you could go under, but I don't think that is a safe play, just because Bobby Green, you know, isn't always there to be hit. You know, Jalen Turner can 100% get those significant strikes against a guy like Dan Hooker, who's gonna stand in front of him, but a guy with Bobby Green that's so elusive, that's, you know, hitting in and out, I think it's a little bit harder for him to, you know, rack those up. But, you know, specifically two plays that I see that do stick out is in the significant strike rivalry category. Again, for Bobby Green and Jalen Turner, they have Bobby with a 4.5 adjustment. I do think you should take Bobby in that one, just because I feel like it's a little bit more easier for me to see, you know, Bobby throwing, you know, jabs, right hands, moving out the way. Probably Jalen's going to throw teep kicks, you know. I don't think he might be able to get those punches off. If you do want to factor in, you know, that, you know, Bobby has a lot more output, that probably is the play for you. But another play that I see that for me, I'm going to go ahead and tail is the fight to go over 10.5 minutes. That would put the fight, you know, going into the third round, and that is something that I do see happening for this fight. Now, in terms of the Bet US picks, I know that people are not gonna want to tail this, but I really do like Bobby Green finishing the fight on the third round, and I like him by either knockout or submission. But part of me does think that if, you know, this fight, like if he drops Jalen, gets him to the ground, I kind of feel like he will chase a submission. It's not impossible, like it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Like Bobby has a couple submissions on his record, you know, and he just submitted Tony Ferguson as well. So for a third round knockout, you have him at plus 2,500, and for a third round submission, you have him at plus 6,500. So those are not too bad odds to sprinkle on. So I would definitely say those are the plays.
Yeah, sorry, I was just responding to the DM you sent me September 17th of 2021.
Holy sh! And then now we go into the last fight, the main event, Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan. This is an amazing fight, not only for the fans, but for the division. Finally, it seems that no more guys can avoid Arman Tsarukyan, and he is finally getting his, you know, chance to crack the top 5. You know, if Arman can get this done, especially finish him. And while Arman Tsarukyan, you know, is a gritty, violent fighter, he is not a pressure fighter to do with the amount that Charles does. Like, those two guys are completely different in that type of aspect. And, you know, I've seen it all week, you know, in this fight in particular, people are saying like, okay, well, Arman's gonna have 100% have to give it to Beneil, because Beneil is able to get submissions on Makachev, but he's also been in there against, you know, Matt Frivola. The guy has very, very solid wins. I would honestly put them up there with the amount of, you know, wins that Beneil has. But of course, you got to give the experience edge to Beneil. I mean, he's been there. The guy is, you know, I think 33, 34, and he's fought a lot of good fighters. Even before he had this run at lightweight, he's been in there with Edson Barboza, you know, Michael Chiesa, Jim Miller. I mean, the guy has a ton of experience, you know, in the UFC. And so, yes, you know, I do agree with the MMA community when they say that, you know, a 5-round fight is going to favor Arman, you know, because we've seen him do that pace. And he had a grueling pace against Mataush, you know, and for that to go 25 minutes, it shows that the guy has really good cardio. So I would give him that advantage. But one aspect that I don't see people talking about is the power. And while, yes, I do agree that Arman Armin, has, at least a little sting in his shots. It is nothing compared to the power that Beneil has. I mean, this guy has put out Jakar close. He's, dropped Mateusz Gamrot in a nasty fashion. And I do have a seeking suspicion that Armin does not have a chin like that. We saw him get gnarly cracked by Joaquim Silva, and I feel like if Beneil can catch him, he won't fall into the same traps that Joaquim, Silva fell into. He'll be able to actually get an advantage of him. And with how methodical Beneil takes, step in with his striking, I feel like he can get the better of Armin Tsarukyan. So overall, I just feel like this is gonna be one of those fights where, the veteran is just gonna have to show their experience. I feel like he is going to outclass Armin Tsarukyan in some aspects of the game. So with that being said, my official pick for this fight, I am gonna go ahead and go with the underdog, Beneil Dariush. I feel like his experience is really gonna be shown in this fight, and I feel like he's gonna school Armin Tsarukyan, with him just, I guess, maybe barely winning every single round. I do think this is going to be a competitive fight, don't get me wrong. I just feel like we shouldn't be writing off Beneil just yet. I mean, the guy only took one loss to Charles Oliveira, and people are immediately drowning him. I think he should be able to get this done. Now, in terms of the player props, I would 100% stay away from the significant strikes from, Armin Tsarukyan. They have him like sitting around like 65, depends on, where you find it. He could hit that number, but the thing is, like I said, Beneil is very stationary. Armin could go ahead and hit this number with using, his punches, also, his body kicks. The thing is, though, with how Beneil is able to crack you, because he's so methodical, he does take his time. I feel like Armin's going to want to shoot on him, get him against the cage, and we could see more scrambles than we do see like fight time on the feet. I think really where you're going to see the money made is on the 18.5 fight time, for this fight to go over that into the championship rounds, as well as Armin Tsarukyan sitting at 2.5 takedowns. I think you absolutely take the higher, because just as long as he takes down, Beneil will be able to get taken down, but he will be able to get back up, and he will be able to scramble his way out. And so in terms of the Bet US player props, I think really the only value you can see is Beneil Dariush by knockout at plus 700, as well as him by submission at plus 1100. I think really those are the only plays that have a potential of hitting. There's also the combined. Everything else is going to be so harder to predict. But yeah, you guys, those are my official plays and predictions. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys a summary list right here at the end. Please, you guys, like the video and comment down below. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Who do you guys have winning these fights? And man, who are you guys most anticipated to see? Please, you guys, like the video. Catch you guys later. Peace.